So New Zealand Warriors family, a bit of a mixed bag for the club this past weekend. Jersey Flegg battled really hard, just missing out. The Cup boys getting the minor premiership done, coming from behind and getting the win. NRLW side going outstanding, getting a win in those bad conditions over there in Aussie. And finally, we had the result from the NRL side, which we would love to forget. A few topics today, so I thought I might take some time and do a little bit of a longer form video today. Give my YouTube followers something to look at for once. Got to start out with the NRL game first and foremost. So there's a lot of conjecture before the game as to why Tanah was dropped, why he played Tamati Martin. A lot of people have said in social media that it was a complete mistake given the outcome. Personally, I don't think that. How will we know? Tamati went down so early in the game, and that had such a huge impact on the outcome. I got the logic. Bulldogs are one of the most physical, defence-orientated teams in the comp. They've got massive edges there, very physical. So I understood the idea of starting with Marata and Tamati Martin on that right-hand side, trying to shore things up a little bit. Tamati going down early on, completely destroyed that plan. Leka coming on, getting his nose broken, that couldn't have been anticipated. So many things went against us. Shitty weather, we're not the best in wet weather footy, even though the Bulldogs aren't either. We got a lot of 50-50 calls go against us. We had the bouncer ball go against us. Once Burden kicked that 40-20, that was an amazing kick. We just really struggled to get the momentum back. And a lot of that credit has to go to the Bulldogs. And as Warriors fans, we have to accept the fact that the Bulldogs won that game as much as we lost it. They played really well in those conditions. They stepped up and did what they needed to do, so we should acknowledge their contribution in our loss. But at the same time, it was just one of those nights, man. Shit didn't go our way, and once we lost momentum, the boys just really struggled to get back into it. It would have been like trying to swim uphill in quicksand in that shitty weather with all of the injuries. So I think you just got to flush it and move on. So that's all I'm going to talk about there. Well done to the Bulldogs. Unlucky for us. Just quickly on the Cup side, an outstanding effort for them to win the minor premiership. They'd actually won it before the game finished, with the Dragons losing, but they came from behind to get that amazing try to seal Kali, to seal the win right at the end. I've got to say, Tanah Boyd was outstanding in that game. He really ran the show. Great to see he didn't kick stones. He just went straight back and did his business. So big props to him. But to all of the team, all of the players, all the support staff, the coaches who've got that done this year, that's an amazing effort. I'm curious to see how they play out these last 3 games. Do they bring a couple of these young guys up, these fringe players from Jersey Flegg, give them a bit of a game time, rest some of the more experienced boys so that they're nice and fresh heading into the finals? Because I think it's huge if we can win this Cup championship this year, give the young fellas a success vision. But at the same time, I think it's really important to make sure we give some of these kids who are probably going to play full-time Cup next year a bit of exposure this year without the pressure. So really interested to see how that goes. And I'm talking about guys like Kalis Putoko, Patrick Moimoy, Brandon Norris would be some of the backs. I don't know how many of the forwards, other than those who've already come up and had game time, you'd bring up, because a lot of them are still SG ball eligible. So it's more the backs I'm thinking about, getting a bit of experience there, given the fact that we probably won't have Morgan Harper next year. We know we definitely haven't got Ed Cossey, and we won't have MGT, so we're going to be relying on those young fellas next year. So maybe giving them a bit of a chance now, easing them in and out, a couple of guys each week would be a good way to go. I've got to be honest, I didn't watch a lot of the NRLW game because I was so fixated on the Roosters, but big props to them. I watched the highlights, some great skill in that weather. Really proud of that effort, and they're easing their way up towards the top 4 or 5 teams there, so they could actually end up doing pretty well this year. So I'm definitely going to be watching their next game. I believe it's in Hamilton this week. I'm really proud to see the progression they've shown since TJ Ashwood has come over and taken over that team after he finished up with the Mats. We've got a lot of young forwards who've come up into that side, with a lot of the senior forwards going into New South Wales Cup a lot. The Harry Durbins, the Rodney Tuipulotu-Vaiers, Jason Seol-Solalio and Ituate Fukufuka going up into hookers as well. Makaya Taufa and JD Aloha. Those guys spending a lot of time up in Cup throughout the year, so we're really had to rely on some pretty young guys in our forward pack, and they're really starting to build that confidence. Jack Thompson at halfback, he's really starting to own that team now. Joseph Radcliffe, since he's been in there at fullback, he's really starting to to make that position his own. So there's a lot of really good progress for them. Probably a little bit late in the season now to make a genuine run for the finals, but a great sign for the future of the New Zealand Warriors. Really excited to see how all those guys progress over the next couple of years. Another couple of topics of interest. Tamati Martin reportedly to have signed an extension for 1 year. I've got to say I really like it. Still a lot of uncertainty around Luke Metcalf. He hasn't re-signed, coming back from that ACL. How does that go? So I think it really does make a lot of sense to have that experienced player in Tamati Martin there for another year, just as some of these young guys transition. Jett Cleary, another topic there today that he's, the Australian media, McInnes, in the commentary last night talking about Jett Cleary reportedly going to debut this week. I honestly think that is a complete pile of bullshit. That seems to have come from an article written by one of the Aussie journos that was based on the fact that Jett Cleary was named at 7 ahead of Tanah Boyd, claiming that Tanah had dropped down the pecking order. Tanah played 7, ran the show, he did the job, so I fully expect him to come straight up into NRL this week. And when it comes to Jett Cleary, look, he's got the skill, he's got the potential, he's got to put on a whole bunch of size over this off-season, training full-time now, and I don't think there's enough upside to risking him right now. We have lost 3 in a row. We have genuinely got to deal with the fact we could miss the 8 if we don't turn things around. And to put a young guy in with the name behind him, the added pressure that he's got into that cauldron. Imagine he had a bit of a bad game, we lose against the Dragons and we end up missing the finals. That could destroy his confidence. You'd have like a whole bunch of the bandwagoners attacking him. So I think there's very little upside to risking him right now, and I don't think Webby does it. He's clearly said so many times he's not rushing him in. I think you'd see more chance of Tane or Chance playing in the halves if it came down to it. I think Geronimo Doyle would probably play ahead of him rather than risking Jett Cleary at this stage, just my opinion, but I think there's close to zero chance that he plays this week. If he did, I honestly think he'd go okay. He's really shown over the past couple of weeks he's got a lot more than I realised based on his first couple of games with Jersey Flegg this year. He has just really progressed, and I think he is going to be a champion NRL player. But I think the club brought him over here to get him out of the spotlight, and they're not going to throw him straight into it by him debuting this week. Just my personal opinion, guys. Other topics. Tyson Hansen, our Harold Matt's captain, extending out with the New Zealand Warriors for another few years. I'm really excited about that signing. He is a genuine quality kind of player that I want the Warriors to invest in. In fact, he's super professional, great leadership. He's just, the guy just never stops out there. Players like him that pop into my mind, and this is a huge comparison, just in his competitiveness and the way he just will fight to the end, is Simon Mannering like. He's not the flashiest player in the world, but man, he's just never stops going. He has the ability to play in the halves, at lock, pretty much anywhere you can put him. So from that aspect, I think he's a huge get for the Warriors to keep him here and invest in him over the next couple of years. I don't think they'll rush him either, but very excited to see him and a couple of the other young boys who have been extended out, and also good to see us bringing a couple of players back in for the Jersey Flegg next season. Also really excited to see what the trials go like for the junior squads over the next couple of weeks as well. So it's all looking good for our junior programs. I think it's going to start to become a real challenge for us to identify who to keep, how to motivate those guys who are on the fringes. I look at the example of keeping Tamati Martin means we've got a real logjam in the halves. You've got Luke Metcalf, I'm assuming he comes back fully fit. You've got Chanel Harris-Davida, you've got Tamati Martin, Luke Hansen, Jai Lanine, Jett Cleary. There's such a logjam of guys who should either be playing Cup or NRL next year, so how they go about managing that will be a real challenge for them. Similarly, we're going to have a lot of depth in the edges, for example, in the outside backs. We've got some good depth coming through with the props, so how we manage their expectations. Because for guys to try and break in and get past Dimitrik, Jacob, and Tanah Smith and Leka right now, it's going to be a real mental challenge for those boys to stick into it for the long haul. So I'm really curious to see how we manage those pathways. I still think we're a bit of a way from seeing the full benefit of our pathways because we missed all of that COVID period. A lot of the guys who are really standing out, the young and talented outside backs, other than perhaps Siokali, are still a couple of years away from genuinely being a threat at NRL level. You can't just put a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds in there straight away. They would just get owned out there, so we've got to ease them in so they're still playing with senior players. But by the time we get to about 2027, we'll have a group of really quality young players in New South Wales Cup who've played 50 odd games of New South Wales Cup before they debut. But at the moment, in some cases, they're only playing a season before they have to come up. So really excited to see that. But it's going to be about having patience. We just can't throw out a whole bunch of 18, 19-year-olds in the NRL. We saw what happened with Brisbane when they did that a few years ago. Some really talented players, but they got smashed and finished right down the bottom. So I don't want to destroy the guys' confidence by doing that. I think they'll ease them in. Now, looking ahead to this weekend's game, it's a must win, guys. We are 2 losses away from dropping out of the top 8. If we lost the next 2 games, I think there's every chance we drop out of the 8, and we may not be able to scramble to get back in there. So we have to win this week. No choice but to win. The Dragons had an outstanding game on the weekend. They were so relentless, so ruthless against the Sharks. The challenge for them will be whether they can replicate the emotion of that win, particularly being away, having lost Moses Suli. I still don't believe Jaden Searle will be back, so they've got a couple of key outs, but damn, they'll have some confidence coming out of that, and they're always a niggly team for us. So it's going to be a really challenging game, which is one of the reasons I don't think Jett Cleary is going to be in there. So my predicted team, Ali Lauatoa is available this week, but given the fact he was dropped down to Cup and had a few things to work on, having been out with an ankle, I don't know how much he would have been able to put miles into those legs over the past month. Do we rush him straight into centre? Not 100% sure of that. There's every chance he may go back into Cup, which would mean you will see Tane stay at fullback. I think Dallin will stay on the wing. RTS will stay on the wing. Chance will stay at centre with Adam Pompey. In the halves, CHT at 6 and Tanah Boyd at 7. I think it's illogical, in my opinion, to go for any other option other than those 2 guys. I don't even know whether the plan was to drop Tanah for more than one game. Maybe they just genuinely wanted to go for that combative defence option this past weekend. And maybe the plan was always to bring Tanner, and I have no idea. I really do think that's the way they'll be going. In the forwards, I think that you will see Jackson Ford starting with Fish. I think there's every chance that Wade Egan comes in. I think if we had to, we probably would have played Egan last week. It sounds like it's just one of those things that they can manage, but they're trying to get by and give them a little bit more time to recover. But given the position we're in now, where it's pretty much must win, I think there's a very good chance Wade Egan comes back in this weekend, and that you will probably see Kurt Capewell and Marata on the edges again, with Aaron Clark at 13. Then on the bench, Sam Healy, I think, would be our 14th man. His injection is really important. On that note, I was really surprised they took so long to bring him on the weekend. Very surprised. So I do believe he will be our 14 this week, with Dimitri Lecker and Tanner Stowers-Smith. I think that's a pretty strong team, more than capable of beating the Dragons. I guess the biggest talking point will be whether they bring Ali straight back into the centres, and if they do that, I think they move Chance back to fullback. I've really enjoyed the attacking flair of Tane, but you saw in those bad conditions on the back foot, it was a real challenge for him with our line defence, and just that size is pretty hard for him to do those, the big hit-ups when we're not on the front foot. When you're playing front foot footy, he's outstanding. So I still do think that Webby would go for Chance at the back as his first choice option, if that was one there. If Egan isn't able to play, then I think you'll just see Sam Healy go into the hooking role and Freddie Larsick at 14. Or maybe they do what they did last week with Freddie starting, but I would definitely be bringing Sam Healy on after about 20 minutes after that first exchange, not waiting till the second half. I'm not sure the logic behind that. I'm sure Webby would have the answer. I think we only used about 6 interchanges last weekend, which was a little bit unusual, but hey, it is what it is. So I think that's pretty much the way they go. You guys may have your opinion about Jett Cleary. You may think that Tanah Boyd didn't work. I just felt like, I do feel like he's got all the skills. It's about being a little bit more patient. Having Marata on the edge next to him would certainly help him with his defence, because we saw what he's capable of in Cup when he's got a bit of front foot football and he's got his confidence up. He's a very good player, but I just think it was the defence side of things that may have seen him drop down this past weekend. So that's pretty much it for me, guys. I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Look, I think we can be really pessimistic and we could get caught up in the negativity of that loss in the weekend, but as I said, it's just one of those games you got to flush. Injuries, bounce the ball, refs calls, just so many things. Momentum went against us. We just couldn't turn it. I think if we'd had a full-strength team out there with Metcalf, with Mitch Barnett and the like, it would have been a very, very different game. So I think we just got to flush it and move on. We've just got to get focused, flick the switch, get a win, get a bit of confidence up. We win this weekend. I think we only need to win one more and we'll be well and truly safe in the finals for 2025. Up the mighty New Zealand Warriors, guys, thick and thin, we all in. Let me know your thoughts. Who are you lining up this weekend against the Dragons at Mount Smart Stadium in this must-win game?